So I'm doing my second video for my girlfriend. She asked me a few questions, and I told her I would answer her via YouTube. And her first question was how I felt whenever we saw each other. And then I told, my first date story. So then her second question was when I realized I loved her. And that leads to our second date. So after the first date happened, she was kind of, since everything was all awkward, she kind of didn't text me for a little bit. She would text me here and there, but that's it. And I was just prepared to be her friend. But I finally asked her, because we had already had plans on Saturday, and we had gone out on Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken. And I just finally asked her, even if it was awkward the first time, I was like, are you going to still want to go out on Saturday? And she was like, yes. And I was like, okay, cool. So everything was good. Still, we talked, not really, until Saturday. And I went to go pick her up. And she lives all the way across town from where we were headed and from where I live. So I picked her up, and she was a little bit more talkative. Not really, but better than the first time. And we went to the gay strip in Dallas, because that's where I lived at the time, she still lives there. But and we went to one bar, and it was a country bar. And she felt, more at ease, because it's more her style, because, kind of her style. She's a country girl. But, and that bar was a country bar. So she was like, oh, I feel right at home, and da-da-da. And she has the accent and everything. So, we're there, I buy us our drinks, and we go outside to the patio, we're smoking a cigarette or whatever, and, we're talking, and, as we're drinking, I think, what, if I get her, not drunk, but, if she has a little bit more drinks, maybe she'll be more talkative. So we didn't dance or anything, but, we were just talking, getting to know each other, all that good stuff. And then finally, I was like, well, do you want to go to another bar? And she was like, yeah. So we went to another bar, and by the second bar, she was a little tipsy. So, and keep in mind that she was ordering double cranberries all night. Double vodka cranberries, I'm sorry. And we get to our second bar, and she is, like I said, a little tipsy. And I could tell because she's getting more talkative. She's like, haha, laughing at what I'm saying, and she's, really close to me and just making random conversation. And we still didn't dance there. We were just talking. And at that point, we had had a few shots, we had a few drinks, and so we were both feeling good. And the whole time I'm thinking, I want to get my kiss from her. I'm going to get a goodnight kiss from her. Right? And I was like so determined. So after that, we went to our third bar. By that time, she was drunk. I didn't know she was drunk because she didn't look drunk, and she wasn't acting drunk, and she could still walk. On her way over there, she was like holding onto my arm, and she was, just, laughing and stuff. And then some gay guy, came up to us and started making conversation with us and told us to go into this other bar that was really good and this and that. And I'm like, oh, okay. So we ended up going. It was called S4. And we went in, and we went to go to her drink, and I asked her if she wanted another one. She's like, yeah. So she ordered her drink, and I paid for it, whatever. And we find a spot on the side of the stage to go sit. And, she sits down, and I give her drink, and she's just like, ugh. And I'm like, are you okay? And she was like, no, I'm not. And she had yet to even sip on, her drink, which is another double vodka cranberry, which by that time she's already had at least 4 or 5. And I was like, okay, just sit down. It's okay. You don't have to drink this. You want some water? And she was like, yeah, so I went to go get her water, and, you know, she, standing in between her legs, and I'm giving it to her, and the water, and she, you know, was drinking it, and, finally she starts to lean, like, closer into me, and, like, leaning in me, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is it, and, I was like, are you okay? And she still kept, like, getting real weak, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I was like, do you want to throw up? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, okay, let's go to the restroom. So I asked where the restroom was, and they pointed to me on the other side of the club. And this is a bigger club. So we're walking over there, and at that point, I didn't even realize she couldn't walk. She was leaning all on me. She could not walk for the life of her. And we got to the second bar, asked for water, because she was like, stop. And I was like, okay. So, you know, I got some water, and I was like, okay, we're almost there. And it was closer to where the third bar was, on the other side of the club. And she was like, before we took like maybe 7 steps, and she threw up on me. She threw up on me, and she threw up on the floor, and luckily there was a trash can nearby, because I ran over there, and I was, like, holding her hair, and she was just throwing up. She was throwing up. She looked like she had alcohol poisoning. She looked like I drugged her. Like, it was ridiculous. And security comes up, and they're like, you know, is she with you? And I was like, yes. By that time, I sobered up, you know, instantly, after I saw how she was. And she had vomit all over herself. She had vomit all over me, on my shoes. And they're like, well, you need to go get your vehicle, and we'll stay here with her. And she's like, no, don't leave. And she had, like, vomit right here already. And so, I was still kind of drunk. But like I said, I sobered up for an instant, because I was like, oh my God, this is happening. And I went to go look for my truck, and I couldn't even find my truck, because I was drunk. And so I finally found it. And luckily I had a shirt under of my button-up shirt, and I took it off because it was gross and vomited on. And, you know, I got my truck, and I sat there. I drove over there, and I got her up into it, and she could barely even get up. I had to, like, almost carry her in. And I have again, for my first video, I have a 2013 Toyota Tundra, and it's kind of lifted a little. And so, getting her up was a bitch. So, I finally got her up. And right when I'm trying to put her, you know, her seatbelt on, she said, no, I gotta throw up. So, there she is throwing up, like, on my rail, like, to step in. Not exactly inside my truck, but, you know, she was throwing up on the rail, like, where you step on to get in. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, oh, they gotta be kidding. I'm holding her hair, and she's still, like, splattering all over my shoes. And this is my favorite shoes. They were, like, one of my favorite shoes. They were my Sperry's. And I was like, ugh. And meanwhile, this guy comes up to me, hey, can you help me jump my vehicle? And I'm like, yeah, sure, hold on, okay? I gotta finish with her real quick. And they're like, oh, yeah, take your time. So I'm right here waiting until she finishes. And I finally get her back up. I put her seatbelt on. I was like, you stay right there. You don't move. I gotta go help this guy. We have to go help him get, you know, their car back up, or starting again. And she's like, you know, and I was like, okay. So I drive around. She's like, I'm gonna throw up. I was like, no, wait. Anytime I would try and move the car, she was like, I gotta throw up. And so, there she goes, throwing up again, and another guy came. Is she okay? I was like, yeah, she's fine. You know, all looking suspicious, as if it was me who did it to her. And finally, I was able to start that guy's car, whatever, and he's like, is she okay? And I was like, yeah, she had too much to drink. And he's like, oh, okay. I was like, all right, we'll get home safe, you know, whatever. All right, so finally, we're done with that. So I finally get out of the parking lot, and nope, had to stop again. There she was throwing up. And I was like, oh, shit, I had to, like, stop, get out of my truck, open the door, and hold her hair, whatever, to have her throw up, because she was, like, she had no control over herself. She was just throwing up, just leaning over and throwing up. So she couldn't, like, move her hair. She couldn't get out by herself. So I was like, fuck. And I tried to, like, hold her. and kind of bring her out a little bit more so she could stop throwing up on the rail. And I ended up pulling her out too much, and she fell out of my truck. And I was like, oh shit. I was like, are you okay? Are you okay? Come on, get up. I was like, what are you doing falling out of my truck? So I somehow picked her up, and I'm trying to put her back in the truck. And this homeless guy is like, do you want to buy my bike? And I'm like, no, I don't want to buy your bike. I know you see me dealing with something right now. And he just stood there and stared at me. And I was like, this guy wanted me to buy his bike? Like, I have a freaking truck. So then, I finally get her in. And when I got her in, she was still kind of almost standing up. And she hits her head on the side of the frame of the door. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, are you okay? Oh my God, are you okay? And she was like, And so I finally put her seatbelt on, whatever. And I gave her my shirt to wipe herself and everything. And I finally got the door closed. And I finally got to driving on the freeway. And I got her to kind of like stop throwing up. And right when we got on the freeway, she was like, I gotta throw up. And she was about to open the door, right? And I had it locked. But nowadays, the vehicles, even if they're locked, the two front doors, like the passenger door and the driver's seat door, you can, open it and it'll open whether it's locked or not from the inside. So I yelled at her. I was like, don't you fucking open the door. And she something snapped into her and she got scared. Because I yelled at her. And because she was going to open that door. What if she would have fucking fallen out? And I finally stopped, kind of mid-freeway. Going in, when you access into a freeway. Right there, that little triangle part before actually hitting it. And she was throwing up again. And there I gave her my shirt. And my shirt was all thrown up on. It was, ugh. And go figure though, I still have that shirt. And I still wear it. And, finally, I got her back in. And I got her to finally just rest her head on the middle part of my console. And she fell asleep. And then I stopped at a gas station. And when I stopped at the gas station, I washed my shirt there. Where you put air in your tires, but the water part. I did that. And then I made her, put it on her neck and, on her face so it can kind of cool her. And I told her, I was supposed to take her back home. And I was like, hey, wake up. I was like, I'm not going to take you back home. Because by this time, it was already 3:30. And I was like, and it's at least 45 minutes away. And then another 35 minutes to get back to my place. So I was like, hey, would you be okay if I took you to my apartment? I was like, and then in the morning I could take you? And she was like, yes. And I was surprised. So I was like, okay. So I took her to my apartment. We got there finally. I got her up the stairs. I put her, I told her, here's the restroom. Let me get you some clothes. Take your clothes off and then give them to me and I'll go wash them. So, she did exactly that. She took her clothes off. She gave them to me. I gave her clothes or whatever. So I'm putting her clothes to wash and everything. And, she's in the restroom. And then finally, after I'm done with all her stuff, I knock on the door and I'm like, is everything okay? And she wouldn't answer. And then I was like, I opened it. And she was hovered over my tub. And I was like, Kendra, what are you doing? And she was like, what? I was like, why? What are you doing over the tub? She's like, I'm on the toilet. I was like, no, you're not. The toilet's right there. And she's like, oh. And I finally got her to get up, and I was like, here, wash your face. There's an extra toothbrush right there. It's brand new. You can use that. Please brush your teeth. And just get yourself together, okay? And she's like, yeah. And I gave her some water, everything. And then finally, she kind of sobered up a little bit. And she brushed her teeth or whatever. And she got into my bed. And I laid down and she laid down. And we were going to sleep. And at this point, she was talking now. And she was a little sober. And I turned on my side and turned to her. And she turned to me. And she was like, Thank you for taking care of me. She's like, I'm so sorry and I'm so embarrassed. And I was like, don't worry about it. Like, it's not a, it's not a big deal. It's okay. And, she finally, oh, I forgot to mention, during the times when she was throwing up, she tried to kiss me. It was the most disgusting thing in the world. And I was like, nope. I turned her face. Nope, not in what world? And so, anyway, so fast forward, she brushed her teeth and everything. So finally, after saying sorry and everything, we kissed. It was still a little weird because, she had thrown up, but she did brush her teeth, so whatever. And we ended up just talking a little bit more that night. And it was nice. It was nice. And in the morning, I didn't take her right away. We ended up just waking up next to each other and just talking again. It was really nice. I got her clothes out for her and everything. And that was our second date. Now, I had to say that story because that leads to me knowing when I loved her. It was fast for me because I just gotten out of a relationship, a really bad relationship. So to feel like this for somebody so fast, it took me by surprise because I never expected it. I never expected anything with her. But it was about, I think 3 or 4 weeks in, when one night she had spent, after that, by the way, she would spend the night every night at my place. And I would take the time to go see her on my breaks and everything just so we can make out. It was cool. Well, she would come over and stay the night, almost every day. And one of the times, I just remember, we were making out and we stopped and we were facing each other, on our sides, and she was falling asleep. And I waited till she was really, in a deep sleep, because I kind of heard her snore a little bit. It was a little snore. It wasn't a crazy, obnoxious snore. And that's when I knew she was asleep. And it came out. I told her, I love you. And she was asleep. She didn't hear me or anything. But I did tell her. And that's when I knew I could not get enough of her. I could not get enough of her. And I actually told her that I loved her. One night I would always kind of bring it up and hint it, but I don't know if she got the hint or not. But one day I did tell her that I was falling in love with her. And when she said that she felt the same way, it was nice. It was really nice, especially because I had just gone out of a 3-year relationship and it was a horrible breakup. So it was nice. And so that was her answer. After all of that mess with the vomiting, I think if it was anybody else, they probably would have left her there. Or they probably would have never talked to her again. Because she got, crazy like that. But I didn't. If I could do it again, I would. Because that led to her staying over and us kissing and then us seeing each other repeatedly. And I wouldn't trade that. Even if I had to go through it again with the vomiting, everything, and her trying to kiss me after she throws up, I would do it all over again. So anyway, so that's my story, and that's it. All right, until next time.